Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Barden, and I am a composer. Now, what is a composer? Well, at this point, you've probably had a little bit of experience with different bits of music, in your music classes, maybe learning about what goes into them, melody, harmony, rhythm, things like that. Um, but what you may or may not have thought about is that for every bit of music that you've ever listened to or sung or played or just experienced in any ways, that some person somewhere at some time had to go out and say, "Hey, I want to write this music so other people can experience it," and essentially create a set of instructions so that way other people can recreate the music. And that's a lot of what I like to do. One way I like to kind of help conceptualize this is thinking about like writing music is a lot like writing recipes for cooking food. So let's say I've got this recipe here for the best chocolate chip cookies ever. Uh, quite a bold claim. Um, but anyways, in this recipe, lists out all of the ingredients that are needed to create the cookies the way that the original chef intended, and gives all of the instructions to follow right here. So whereas in creating these cookies, instead of going out to the store and getting eggs and baking soda and chocolate chips, and then preheating the oven and mixing it all together and baking it, the composer will go out and say, okay, I need, you as the performer or the recorder should, you're gonna sing these words, or get this instrument to play the melody with this particular rhythm, and so on and so forth. Uh, Boom. All right. One way that we'll do that, a lot of composers will kind of compile everything they need to know, like that recipe website, or little. Sometimes you see recipes written out on little cards. They'll compile everything into one place, so that way whoever is trying to recreate the music has all of the information in one spot. In particular, have stuff for a piece I recently wrote right here. So I have everything that someone might need to know about the piece of music, and what I do when I go about this, I have to think, what do I want the melody to be? What notes do I want the different people to sing or play on their instrument? What kind of rhythm do I want to have it have? Do I want it to be something fast and exciting, like bum ba dum da dun da dun da dun da, or something really long and drawn out and a little more lyrical? These are things we all have to think about when we're composing music, and each person does it differently. Every piece of music is slightly different. The way I tend to do it is I'll write everything out more or less by hand, and then I'll go in with my computer and use that to create these kind of documents that are kind of like the instructions, the music for how to recreate that. So, like in the recipe where it listed out all of the ingredients, I've got all of the instruments right here and other things that the performers need to know, and then every instrument gets their own instructions. Play play this note for this long and get softer and things like that. So that way, every performer can follow the instructions, and when everyone follows the recipe, it recreates the music like you would be recreating those cookies. So that's just one way to go about this. I mentioned that I do a lot of work with my computer as well as when I write things out manually. So I create a lot of stuff on the computer. I'll sometimes like use the computer to make other pieces of music and record things. I've got actually a fairly fancy little setup at home here. This is something that's not always needed, but it's got a little bit of everything right here. So that way, when I'm creating the music, I have the full amount of options and things to work with right there. It's a little messy now that I'm looking at it, but that's kind of everything there for possibly creating music and videos and recordings and all that kind of thing. So I mentioned before that every composer works a little bit differently, and every piece of music sounds a little bit different as well. And that's something that you'll notice if you just listen to more and more songs and pieces of music, uh, things like that. You'll notice that the top 20 tracks that you would stream on Spotify might be different than the soundtrack to your favorite movie or video game. And that just kind of boils down to what the music was intended for and how the composer works. But they all kind of focus on the main aspects when they're thinking about the music and what goes into it. What instruments or voices do I want to use? What kind of text, lyrics do I want the people to sing the song as? Do I, what should the melody or the harmony or the rhythm be, and all that kind of stuff. Those are the main things that, no matter how the composer works, they all have to think about those aspects of the music, and they just work and combine them in different ways to create different pieces of music that can be used for different things. I mentioned recording songs to stream online, or putting music in your video games or your movies, or uh, you know music that you might practice and perform in a concert and things like that. So they're all different aspects of music, and they all work slightly differently, but they all have someone, sometimes multiple someones, behind the scenes who wrote out the music and created all of the instructions, so that way other people could then recreate that music. So I hope that kind of helps you just understand a little bit about just what a composer does, and why they're important to music. If you have more questions about this kind of thing, feel free to ask your teacher. She'll be able to you know clarify anything that I might have brought up that seemed a little bit confusing. And we'll go from there. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day.